Inhale and then forcefully exhale, pushing the Hierophant from the pineal down the central vertical current into Earth's core. After the exhale, hold your breath for 3 to 4 seconds while imagining 3 tiny Ki-Rache flames, one pale turquoise, one pale yellow, and one pale pink, gently bursting upward to surround the Akasha Hierophant within the Earth's core in response to contact with your Akasha Hierophant. Now inhale the Akasha Hierophant with the 3 Ki-Rache flames surrounding it upward to the Maharic shield center 12 inches below your feet. And then exhale forcefully, imagining the Hierophant and the 3 flames expanding outward on a horizontal plane through your pale silver Maharic shield disc. As the Akasha and 3 flames move outward, imagine the disc expanding also to about 4 feet wide. Hold the breath for 3 to 4 seconds following the exhale, while imagining that your 4 foot wide pale silver Maharic shield disc at the soles of your feet now vibrates as cycling currents of pale turquoise, pale yellow, and pale pink Ki-Rache frequencies blend with the pale silver D12 current. Try to sense a gentle buzzing sensation as your shield frequency accelerate in oscillation to carry the Ki-Rache current. Breathe easy for a second or two. On the next in-breath, you'll use the breath to draw a ball of Ki-Rache, pale turquoise, pale yellow, pale pink, and pale silver frequencies into the center of your Maharic shield from the oscillating Maharic shield disc. You'll imagine the 4 foot Maharic shield disc remains extended while the Ki-Rache Maharic ball collects in the center of your shield to reform a teardrop-shaped Ki-Rache Akasha Hierophant flame in the center of your shield. So inhale, draw a ball of Ki-Rache and pale silver into the center. Imagine your disc remains at 4 foot extended while the ball collects in the center of the shield to form a teardrop-shaped Ki-Rache Akasha Hierophant flame. Exhale gently, imagining the reformed Ki-Rache Akasha Hierophant flame as a pale silver, energized, 3-dimensional Akasha teardrop, pulsing with a repeating cycle of pale turquoise, pale yellow, and pale pink bursts of light. This image of the Hierophant as a 3-dimensional pale silver Akasha teardrop, pulsing with repeating bursts of Ki-Rache color sequence, will now be referred to as the Akasha flame. So if we refer to the Akasha flame, this is the image that you'll be using. Inhale slowly, using the breath to simultaneously draw 3 chords of Ki-Rache frequency up from the flame stationed at the center of your Maharic shield 12 inches below your feet to the Iombi point just below your navel. You'll do this by imagining a thin cord of pale turquoise Ki current, the D13 Manu, extending up from the Akasha flame and into the small chakra in the ball of your right foot, a thin cord of pale pink She current, the D15 Ire, extending into the small chakra in the ball of your left foot, and a thin cord of pale yellow Ra, the D14 Mane, extending directly up your central vertical current into the base chakra between your legs. So inhale slowly, drawing each of the 3 flames, pale turquoise, coming up and into the right, pale pink coming up into the ball of the left, and a thin cord of pale yellow up to the base chakra between your legs. Repeat that, continuing a slow inhale, drawing the 3 Ki-Rache currents up into the body at the same speed while imagining the pale turquoise and pale pink currents running into the feet, arcing from there to the center of your body, merging with the pale yellow center current, the 3 currents joining at the Iombi point just below the navel. Exhale gently while imagining that the meeting of the 3 Ki-Rache chords forms a glowing emerald green crystal in the Iombi. You can repeat the gentle inhale and gentle exhale if you wish before we move on. But bring those together at the Iombi forming a glowing emerald green crystal. On the next inhale, which will be a gentle inhale, we'll use the breath to draw the Akasha flame from the center of your Maharic shield up through the pale yellow cord in the central vertical current and into the emerald green Kirashe crystal at the Iombi point. Inhale gently, draw the Akasha flame from the center of your Maharic shield up through the pale yellow cord and into the emerald green Kirashe crystal at the Iombi point. Then exhale gently when the Akasha flame has entered the emerald green crystal, and then breathe gently for a few moments, allowing yourself to sense a feeling of warmth or slight buzzing at the Iombi. Next we'll inhale a pale silver cord of Maharic frequency up from Earth core, drawing it into the Akasha flame within the emerald green crystal at the Iombi point. Then we'll exhale forcefully using the breath to expand the Akasha flame from within, while imagining that the Akasha flame and emerald crystal pop, releasing the Kirashe and Akasha flame frequencies into the Iombi. So draw pale silver cord of frequency up from Earth core into the flame within the emerald green crystal. Exhale forcefully using the breath to expand the flame from within itself, imagining the flame and crystal pop, releasing the Kirashe and Akasha flame frequencies into the Iombi point itself. Just breathe gently for a few moments. And whilst you're breathing gently, wait for the moment that a small pale silver indigo blue violet flame about 2 inches high spontaneously ignites within the Iombi point. The Iombi point is the seat of the celestite crystal that houses the pale silver indigo blue violet Eros flame. Activation of the Akasha flame. The Kirashe and Maharic currents within the Iombi releases the power of the Eros flame within the Iombi point. On the next inhale, we're going to draw pale silver, indigo blue violet. So we're going to draw the frequencies of the Eros flame up the central vertical current and into the Azure point, the base of the thymus, just above the heart chakra. Then we'll exhale gently, depositing the Eros flame within the deep azure blue crystal at the Azure point. So do this with grace and gentleness. Inhale, gently and smoothly, drawing pale silver, indigo blue violet Eros flame up the central vertical current into the Azure. Just pause briefly, exhale gently, gracefully depositing the Eros flame within the deep azure blue crystal at the Azure point. Now pull Maharic current up from Earth's core into the pale silver indigo blue violet Eros flame at the Azure. Exhaling forcefully using the breath to expand the Eros flame from within itself until it pops within the Azure point. Imagine the pale silver, indigo, blue, violet Eros frequencies spreading throughout the Azure and the base of the thymus gland. Breathe gently for a few moments now, while imagining a small azure blue flame about 2 inches high spontaneously ignites within the Azure point. The Azure point is the seat of the Azurite crystal that, when fully activated, houses the radial body Emerald Emerald flame. Now draw a long, deep breath of pale silver Maharic current up from Earth's core into the small azurite flame at the azure point. Exhale forcefully, using the breath to expand the flame outward from the azure point into the auric field, completely permeating and surrounding the physical body. Imagine that as the flame expands outward, its color changes from deep azure blue to deep emerald green blue as the Manu, Mane, and Ire frequencies of the full Amaraya flame activate within the azure point. Breathe gently while imagining that the deep emerald green-blue Amaraya flame continues to expand throughout the auric field. Imagine or intend that the auric field forms a large, three-dimensional Akasha teardrop emerald flame with a pale silver, indigo, blue, violet, Eros, silver sanctum lining all round the body. The base of the emerald Amaraya flame expands downward to Earth's core, while the tip expands upward to chakra 14, 36 inches above the head. Bring to mind the 4-foot wide Maharic shield disc 12 inches below your feet, and specifically imagine that the emerald green Amaraya flame is now fully expanded to encompass the entire Maharic shield. Now return your attention to the azure point at the base of the thymus gland. Inhale pale silver Maharic current up from earth core to form a small 2-inch pale silver Maharic flame in the azure. And then exhale forcefully, using the breath to push the pale silver Maharic flame up from the azure and into the pineal gland at the center of the brain. Just breathe gently and gradually move your attention into the pineal gland at the center of the brain. Now imagine that the pale silver Maharic flame that you've drawn to the pineal gland holds 2 tiny crystals at its center, and these appear to you as sparks of light. One, the vibrant violet of D7, the other, the metallic gold yellow of dimension 8. Focus your attention on these 2 tiny crystals at the center of the pale silver Maharic flame at the pineal gland. Then draw Maharic current up from earth core into the Maharic flame stationed in your pineal, and use the breath forcefully to fill the flame with a burst of Maharic current. Breathe easy and imagine or intend that the violet and gold crystals within the Maharic flame vibrate for a moment and then burst into 2 tiny flames, one violet, one gold, within the 2-inch high Maharic flame. Inhale Maharic frequency up from earth core and into the Maharic flame at the pineal, and gently exhale the Maharic current. Now just breathe gently and imagine that the tiny violet and gold flames within the Maharic flame flare in a magenta pale pink flash as they depolarize and combine with the Maharic flame, forming a silvery pink sunburst of D12 and D15 frequency within the pineal gland. Inhale Maharic current from earth core. Hold briefly before exhaling forcefully, pushing the silvery pink sunburst vertically upwards from the pineal to the 7th, 10th, 11th, and finally into the 14th chakra, 36 inches above the head. On the next in-breath, pull Maharic frequency all the way up to the silvery pink sunburst in chakra 14, and forcefully exhale the silvery pink sunburst all the way down to Earth's core. Inhale again quickly, using the breath to rapidly draw the silvery pink sunburst up the central vertical to chakra 14, 36 inches above the head, and again exhale forcefully, using the breath to send the silvery pink sunburst back down to Earth core. Quickly inhale again, using the breath to draw the silvery pink sunburst up into the center of the Maharic shield, 12 inches below your feet. Imagine the silvery pink sunburst as a spinning silvery pink sphere at the center of your Maharic shield. Allow the silvery pink sunburst to spin in whatever direction and speed and rhythm it chooses. Draw a gentle in-breath into the shield, and then exhale it forcefully, using the breath to push D12 and D15 current throughout the Maharic shield disc from the spinning silvery pink sunburst at the center of your Maharic shield. And just breathe easy and imagine now that your Maharic shield is glowing as a 4-foot wide disc that repeatedly cycles waves of pale silver, emerald green blue, and silver pink frequency throughout your entire body and auric field. The Maharic shield is now temporarily sealed within the protection of the amplified Amaraya flame, and this simultaneously creates an Amaraya seal within and around the DNA template and personal shields, which will serve to transmute disharmonic reverse frequencies moving through the DNA from the shadow body and shadow dancers, and will also transmute disharmonic frequencies coming into the DNA template from the planetary environment, such as blue sword reverse D13 current. The Amaraya buffer seal will sustain in the Maharic shield and DNA template as long as the silvery pink sunburst sphere at the Maharic shield center is present and remains spinning. The natural D12 Maharic seal will remain in sustained constant activation and will no longer require manual activation as long as the Amaraya buffer seal activation is consistently sustained. Repeating these steps 1 through 24 once every 7 days, and using the following technique 8 part 2, the buffer, once per day will be sufficient to sustain the Amaraya buffer seal. If the daily routine of using the Amaraya Insta buffer is broken by more than a 1-day lapse, the use of steps 1 through 24 is essential to reactivate the Amaraya buffer field. For the time being, you have all successfully activated your Amaraya buffer field, which will remain with you now for the next several days. Gently and in your own time, just bring your conscious attention back into your physical body. Ensure that you're feeling comfortable before you open your eyes. And we shall look forward to seeing all bar those who require regent level ordination this evening. We shall look forward to seeing everyone tomorrow morning at approximately 10:30. Thank you all so very much. It's which only after the fact do you ever realize how obvious they are, and you feel, or you could choose to feel, utterly stupid. And one of the things that happened in France, because we talk about when people come together in this way, we talk about the group shield and how during the first 12 to 24 hours, part of what we do that doesn't involve talking to anyone is to assist in unifying the group shield, because you all bring codes together, right? And you temporarily form a group shield where you combine the codes, and the codes have value, data value, and so on. And it was in France where I found myself saying to the group, because they were sort of oohing and ahhing about one of the new keys, the sacred keys that are pass keys to the gates and stuff. We call them codes, Becker codes and other things. And they were doing that, and I found myself responding immediately by saying, well, but don't you realize that when groups of people come together, you bring the pieces of these things oftentimes, or you bring pieces of data that just happens to get strung together, knitted together by Ash, or in the case of all of the recent symbols, by me. I mean, it isn't the personal thing. It's not us being clever. We just happen to be the coal scuttle, really. You know, here we are, full of all the pieces of coal you bring, you know, because we need a fire to keep warm. And so they were doing that in France, and I said, look, I said this, don't you realize that all that's happened is that we've just gathered together all of the elements you brought, and here they are on a piece of paper which you're going ooh-ah about and making it very personal to us, giving us your power so you can have it back. Thank you very much. We don't teach you about that stuff. We teach you to do the other thing. And then I think we got into something else, and then I'm sitting there and I'm going, And I looked at the symbol in front of me, and I counted the components. All of each of the little, a flourish, a curve, a line, is all a unique component of the being that we call a symbol. And I found myself looking at it, and I did a count of the elements. There were 53 people in the room, and there were 53 elements in the symbol. And I said to Ash, hang on, I've got to tell him this, right? I've got to tell him. And I said, do you realize if you count this symbol, there are 53 pieces, and how many people are there in the room? And I went, oh. You know, like everyone had brought a piece of that thing. Well, that's the kind of preamble for the morning session, because you people have brought a ton of stuff, believe me. Boy. So anyway, part of the gift you brought is the most, from my perspective, and it isn't appropriate really to differentiate between them, but you've brought together the elements of the most extraordinary the Rouchet 12 symbol, which has got more angelic writing in it than anyone that either of us seen in this lifetime anyway. It's absolutely gorgeous. So the first part of the shift finished at about 3:30 this morning when that symbol was completed, and then I woke Ash up, and she has continued then to translate the rest of the stuff that you guys are prompting and delivering, and it's really more than we supposed was going to be here. We didn't think that there would be such a ton of stuff. So part of it is in translation now, which is to do with the real significance of France and how it relates to the UK, how that relates to what we thought we were going to talk about this afternoon, which was about the anatomy of the beast, and through that the significance to each of you and all of us of the codes and the techniques that we've been introducing this weekend. So there is a degree of what we knew would be there, but then there's a whole raft of additional information we didn't expect to be present. So the way that we've decided to do this today is that I'm going to deal with all of the material up to about lunchtime, while Shanna is actually completing the translation of the balance of the data, so that around lunchtime and just after it, we'll be getting into a whole bunch of new stuff. Whether or not she can just give it to you like that, or whether she needs to read, because we're not really very familiar with some of what we're dealing with. So I'm going to have to read some of it to you today anyway, because we just don't have time to relax enough to let the cellular memory just bring it back up again. And sometimes it's important. They often tell us that there are occasions when we have to read the translations word by word because of the way that the frequency is keyed into the sentences and the words that are being used. If we paraphrased it, we would actually change or reduce the frequency value. And really, you guys are here to get frequency rather than, blab. Understand what I mean? And some of that is spoken, some of it isn't. All right. So that's where we are. And what we'll do, we'll begin by using technique 8B, which is the technique that I referred to at the end of the session on technique yesterday, which is the short form. This is the top up, the Amorea buffer. And it's a very fast technique
once you've familiarized yourself with the components. And as we were saying, as long as you do the long version once every 7 days, okay, the short version, the daily practice of the short version, which is much faster even than the quick seal, completely replaces the need to do all the techniques you've been doing previously, which means that any of the things that you've been doing, but which you might like doing, say salutations, for example, and just simply enjoying being connected with the frequencies of the songs, they're all things that you can continue to do because you want to. And they're coming more into the, when I remind myself, when I find time to play, being more of myself, you can play being more of yourself. But in terms of, let's say, the requirement to keep your field strong, to enable the codes to continue to activate and develop in your own personal template, then this Amareya buffer, the short version of 8, has become, if you like, the key technique to do. But neither you nor anybody else you know who's coming into the work must not be allowed to think they can go straight to technique 8 and 8B, because it would be utterly valueless. And there is danger in that, because they will start to suppose or surmise that they have a degree of field strength and protection. They will get themselves into a situation they don't need to be in, and that we can do them huge disservice. And remember that if we do that, then we actually pick up the karma on it too, which at this point we don't particularly want. We're doing our utmost to get rid of all the connections that we can. We'll go into some key background, which will splice into the new stuff, and then we will do some shadow dancer decoding as well, getting into some really crucial and very meaty healing work, which is also extremely excellent, I think. We will complete all of the techniques, and I'm waiting for Ash to give me some modification on technique 12, so we'll do that slightly out of phase, but it's okay. And we will do optical pineal induction of some of the new codes that you haven't seen. Jane, the two newer ones are out front being copied. They'll be ready at the lunch break if you can pick them up for us. And people will need the color copy of the Thanali Manu that you got done for us before we came up, so you can distribute those together with the 2 new black and white ones. Yeah. All right. So, if you can start to just do your final wriggling and begin to bring your attention to your breathing. I shouldn't need to remind you to just to get yourself focused, start to relax, bring your attention to your breathing rate. Just spend a short time just regulating your breathing. And whilst you're working on your breathing rhythm, begin to imagine the Hierophant as the pale silver three-dimensional teardrop shape akasha, containing either the ruche or a 24-point star, if you're not yet working with the ruche akasha, stationed at the pineal gland at the center of your brain. If any of you are having difficulty in visualizing, I can assure you that if you relax enough and just breathe, and one of the helpful things is to just recite the Akasha Son quietly in your own head. Personally, I find that between the second and the third recital of the Akasha Son, the Akasha suddenly pops up in my pineal gland and I can see it quite clearly. If I approach it from another angle where I try and push the image, as it were, into my head, which is artificial, it doesn't happen anything like as easily. So with the Hierophant comfortably established at your pineal gland, whether you can see it or whether you can't, it's there. Inhale and use the exhale breath to push the Akasha Hierophant down to the pale turquoise, pale yellow and pale pink Hiraishe flames in the earth's core. Inhale very strongly in a moment, drawing the Akasha Hierophant and the 3 Hiraishe flames up to the center of the Maharic shield, 12 inches below your feet. Inhale deeply. Then exhale, forcefully expanding waves of Hiraishe frequency outward through the shield, while expanding the shield to a 4-foot diameter disc. Inhale, drawing the Hierophant, Akasha, and the three Kirashe flames up the central vertical current, first to the base chakra, and then up to the Ihumbi point just below the navel. Exhale, and imagine that the pale silver-blue Eros flame ignites in the Ihumbi point as the Akasha Hierophant and three Kirashe flames pop and disappear. Inhale deeply, drawing the pale silver-blue Eros flame up to the Azare point at the base of the thymus. Then exhale forcefully, imagining a great wave of deep emerald green-blue Amaraya frequency bursting outward from the Azare and expanding into the large Amaraya flame capsule surrounding your body, amplifying the already activated Amaraya flame. Pull frequency from Earth's core to the Azare, and forcefully exhale, using the breath to push Maharic current up to the pineal gland and on out the top of the head to chakra 14, 36 inches above your head. Now bring your attention to the silvery pink sunburst at chakra 14, within chakra 14, and inhale. Forcefully exhale, using the breath to push the silvery pink starburst down and into the silvery pink sunburst sphere stationed at the center of the Maharic shield 12 inches below your feet. Imagine the silvery pink sunburst begins to spin more rapidly in whatever direction it chooses, sending waves of silvery pink, emerald green blue and silver frequency out through your Maharic shield. This is how you energize and amplify the Amaraya buffer. Now to further amplify the Amaraya buffer, take several 2-point breaths. I'll describe them. On the inhale, draw pale silver D12 up from Earth core, while simultaneously drawing pale yellow D14 down from chakra 14. On the top of each inhale, the pale silver and pale yellow currents meet at the Azare, forming a large spark of the gold and silver one. Silver gold light in the Azare. You would then exhale forcefully, using the breath to push rays of silver golden light outward in all directions, throughout every atom and throughout the entire auric field. Now use several of these 2-point breaths. And as you do so, it's unlikely that anyone will fail to feel a tingling or a sense of spreading warmth throughout the Azare point in the thymus. Just spend a few seconds feeling your fields, feeling your cells, allowing yourself to notice the frequency power associated with this incredibly simple technique. Feel within and around yourself, and then explore the group shield. Allow your awareness to expand, feeling your family and the frequency that you carry. It's already producing some lovely smiles. All of you parts of each other. Bless you. And when you've done, just slowly and gently bring your consciousness back fully into your body and open your eyes. Pretty powerful technique for one so short, isn't it? It's a real Lulu. And we've found on occasions that simply to draw one or two real rapid breaths into the other ray and just activate that flame. When in France all of us were under quite a lot of peculiar psychotronic pressure. And some of that expresses in the emotional body, some in the mental, some in a combination of both, some in the physical. And we found that remembering just to activate that in just 2 breaths and to push it out. And there have been occasions when dancers that have been hovering around people, really trying to anchor more keenly because they're aware that what we're doing is going to give them a free pass to somewhere else, are doing their best to dig in more deeply. And you can communicate with them, tell them that you're going to express your sovereign right as a Christic being, and I'll tell you, before you've even finished the second breath, they're gone. If you see them if you were seeing them in a chair or standing around, you can do the first breath, the second breath, and you're going to burn your ass. Don't hang around because you're choosing this, and I'm warning you. Leave because you can't handle this frequency. You don't even get through the third breath, and if you look in the same space, they're not there anymore. Because they know, and they have to honor that, because otherwise they're going to really damage themselves. It will burn them. All right, now. The things I'm going to read, I will read in a kind of I'll try and read them in a kind of a hyper slow way, so that you get what's here. Some of it, all of it's entirely new to you, some of it's new to me. And we're meant to understand what this is talking about. So first, shadow dancers, the Metatronic code, and the signs of the beast. Shadow dancer attachments are highly intelligent, intellectually sophisticated, fallen angelic races existing within the 11.5 reverse dimensional fields of the Wesedak black hole system, who long ago chose to adopt the anti-Christic, that's to say cut off from the universal D12 divine blueprint, chose to adopt the anti-Christic reversed matrix Metatronic code. Shadow dancer races were created 150 billion years ago, when their universal Vecca system, from a different Akasha A spectra, fell to anti-Christic imploding black hole status, following their own race's hybridization with a group of fallen races from our own phantom matrix black hole. The Wesedak races originally agreed to host matrix and assist in the reverse mutation of certain race strains from our own universal Vecca that had fallen to phantom matrix black hole status during Lyran Elohim wars 250 billion years ago. Their hybridization healing experiments failed, serving instead to amplify the original phantom matrix race genetic mutations among their own race lines. Due to the advanced DNA template mutations and consciousness distortions they had created for themselves through employing tactics of shield template combining that the Yana's master races has strongly advised them against, the Wesedak races fell into severe polarity consciousness and began fighting within their universal Vecca. The Wesedak races refused to take responsibility for the free will actions they chose in misapplying natural creation physics, and adopted an attitude of vengefully blaming the races from our own time matrix for that's the Wesedak's decline. They cited the cause of their devolution as being the host matrix they originally offered to our fallen phantom matrix races. In an attempt to assist the Wesedak races to redirect their evolution, the Braharama, Seraphi, and Elohai races of our time matrix, and they, as you should now know, are your father and mother family. You are all associated directly with this subject. So, in an attempt to assist the Wesadek races to redirect their evolution, the Brahmarama, Seraphi, and Elohai races of our time matrix agreed to their demands of removing certain phantom matrix race strains from their time matrix and bringing them back to our own phantom matrix from which they originally fell. Remaining phantom race strains, their original mutation now amplified, were returned to our phantom matrix under quarantine. They were offered an advanced re-evolution program through which they could rapidly re-evolve out of phantom matrix through a Brahmarama Elohim host matrix as they posed a threat to the continued re-evolution of the fallen races that had remained in phantom matrix. Can you imagine the kind of debate that we were involved in High Council? And this isn't the only one. There have been a number of them like this. And do you understand how part of our experiences with what is called unconditional love have matured through involvement in these issues? And can you compare, when you consider decisions that we have to take over these issues, with the kind of expressions of unconditional love known by the 3D mind? You can barely conceive of it, can you? And yet through this, if you just linger over some of these things and think about your own role, think about how you would feel, how you would vote in council for what to do. Because these are asking you just how much you understand unconditional love. And that's the kind of love we're talking about. Cosmic unconditional love. The kind that understands things in an altogether different way than those coming from a fundamental victim or victimizer's point of view. All right. As a result of all of this, a polarization refraction lens called the Eye of Metatron was installed 150 billion years ago at the D11.5 Universal Stargate 12 of Lyra Aramatena between Phantom and our living time matrix. The lens was put there and served the sole purpose of channeling a portion of our universal Vecca life force currents from our universal Vecca D15 primal light field into the quarantine portion of the phantom system and created a quarantine path of ascension via host matrix for the returning races. Do you understand what this means? Yeah? They were put in an isolation unit, effectively, so that they couldn't contaminate their own people who had remained in Phantom, trying to renew their relationship with the ascension path, and also the other races that had not yet fallen. Okay? There was like a lens was used to allow some primal life force currents to move naturally into this quarantine space. Because if that lens wasn't placed there, the frequency of the primal life force currents in their organic fashion wouldn't know it was there and couldn't flow into it. So the lens was used as a device that actually allowed, refracted like you refract light, that it allowed some natural flows of source frequency to move into the safe space they would have put into to assist them to re-involve, you see. Because this is consciousness flowing, but it's like food to a being that chooses to evolve. And they have to have that frequency flowing into them as consciousness, just as we're doing, in order that it provides soul food, if you like, so that the choices they're making become informed by the proportions of that frequency they carry in their fields, which naturally supports the higher choice over the lower ones. All right? So this was the process, this was the framework, this was the way that we set up a healing experiment that was expressing unconditional love of the highest order. Right? There is no judgment, there's opportunity. But at the same time, there is that strain of tough love running through it that says, we understand this well enough to know that we have a duty and service to other life forms and the sovereign right they have to choose in the way that they wish to evolve. But you have the same right too. Now how can we arrange that? And that's what this is about. Right? That was a decision, a very wise kind of decision in the moment. But we read on. Okay. Oh, yes, so the lens served to channel a portion of our universal Vecca life force currents from our universal Vecca D15 primal light field in the quarantine portion of the Phantom system and created a quarantine path of ascension, right? The host matrix project was entrusted to an Elohim collective called Metatron of the Giovanni entity collective, the original family line from which the quarantined races had fallen. So these guys were part of that family line already, and they went screwy. When the Eye of Metatron, that's the name of the lens, was installed, mutated hybrid rebel races of the Wesedak matrix misused the Stargate Templar system powers of their universal Vecca in an attempt to break into Phantom Matrix to gain control of the lens. This is where trouble really starts. Their attempted raid failed, destroying their own divine blueprint, Universal Stargate 12, and plunging their matrix into an imploding black hole status. And that means that it's cosmic dust at some point. You know, as it looks right now, they've got 2 billion years of life force energy to live off before they finally return that way. The Metatron Collective failed in numerous attempts of re-evolving the quarantined phantom races, losing more of its consciousness fields to the Phantom Matrix. The Metatronic Collective itself finally fell to Phantom. Through the Metatron's use, the Elohim Metatron's misuse of the Eye of Metatron lens, the quarantine in Phantom Matrix was broken, and Phantom Matrix digressed into progressive hybridization, mutation, and escalating wars between the Phantom races. During the Gaian-Orion Phantom Matrix Wars 570 million years ago, the Metatron Collective made deals with the warring Wesedak races from the Wesedak black hole system. So here you have now the beginnings of the Phantom Black Hole Matrix races, the dominant ones, cutting deals with the other black hole system, which has proved to be a bigger one. So it's like one black hole system of a quarantined nature, formally cutting deals with a bigger black hole system and races who are far cleverer than they suppose they were, just to try and protect and develop power of a particular philosophy, which is generally referred to as externalized Merkaba, in short. And this allowed the Wesedaks to use the Metatronic lens to create a wormhole called the Path of Arimathea between the Wesedak and Phantom matrices. The Wesedak Metatron Alliance used the lens to progressively create the Beast Machine, through which the antichristic Metatronic code for artificially sustained energy vampiring of life, which is the external Merkaba form, a permanent, irreversible template mutation was born via forced shields bonding between the universal shields of Phantom Matrix, our time matrix, and the Wesedak black hole. When the Beast was used to create interface with our system, our own universal Vecca shadow world was born. Now, given who we are, this isn't talking about our role. But you see, we were aware of this at above our own avatar level, most of us. And we participated in that by choosing voluntarily to incarnate in various forms to participate in this development. We didn't all sit up there on a cloud in our white robes watching it and saying, oh dear, didn't we make a bad decision? We repeatedly came into being in many, many different situations to attempt to correct what it was that wasn't working out. And when you've heard me particularly and Ash sometimes refer to all of us having connection with Shadow Dancer and Shadow Influence, it is because of the roles that we played. We had to engage with the enemy. And some of the ways that we did are really not to be described because they were pretty awful. But we did so knowing at that level that we really truly did have the power to undertake the necessary self-healing in order that we ourselves could complete the mission and make transition or ascend. All right? So I'm just reminding you again that we have continually a context in all this stuff. Right? So whoever wants to be afraid of Virginia Woolf can be if they want. I don't care. So, in the creation of our universal Vecca shadow world, The D11.5 reverse matrix dark avatar collectives of the Weserdak black hole, who carry the permanent and irreparable mutation of the Metatronic code, became our shadow dancer attachments. The shadow dancers use the sophisticated external antichristic Templar technologies of the beast and the shadow to progressively drain life force energies and hijack living consciousness from our own universal Vecca system. And I presume you understand why. Their templates weren't connected to primal life force currents anymore, and they can't live without them. So the shadow dancer coding into our template is a siphon, a means of getting access to, and the higher coding you carry, the more of a target you are. It's a bit like comparing organic fillet steak with a piece of rump, you know. Really, it is. From their point of view, it's food, you see. And why dine on rump when you can get your hands on some really refined organic fillet steak? So that's why the indigos are a target for it, because that's what we are. Well, most of us anyway, on a good day. All right, the shadow dancers use a sophisticated external. I mean, one little joke and everybody goes mad. Really. It must be a dry workshop. The shadow dancers use the sophisticated external antichristic Templar technologies, I've already said that, of the beast and the shadow to progressively drain life force. With the birth of the beast and the shadow dancers came the simultaneous unnatural birth of the shadow body also, and with that, elemental attachments and figment attachments. And so now we'll talk a bit about, I'll read a bit about the attachments. The crimson clue, the crimson crest, and the magentas. Both elemental and figment attachments feed energy from the living body and environment to the shadow body, from which phantom and Weserdak races then feed. Shadow dancer, shadow body, elemental attachments, and figment attachments all advance, produce, create, contribute to miasmic buildup, which is antiparticle buildup in the particle field caused by shield reversals, which is back to the Apati stuff we were talking about before the quiz. In the organic shields and DNA template of living matrix life forms, any and every life form. They provide shadow dancers with increased ability to drain life force from the living, personal, and planetary bodies and dimensional unified field. And I stress, this is all life forms, not just human indigos. Elemental and figment attachments appear within personal shields as mathematically reversed and geometrically distorted, misaligned, and chaotically organized fire letter sequences that form the tangible matter template and mutated subshield of the shadow body. They appear within the chakras, the dyadic grid, the axiom and meridian lines, the auric field, the Hoover, radial, and etheric bodies as color distortions. They're usually, almost invariably, seen as thick, dark, murky energy blobs and shapes. Sometimes they appear as shadow forms, animal, plant, and molecular spirit forms, monster images, little people of various kinds, or erratic wave fields of twisted energy, or cold blowing through a room, that kind of phenomena. Using higher sensory perception, they look similar, but not the same as, miasmic chakra and auric distortions originating from your personal template. But upon closer inspection, elemental, figment, and shadow dancer attachments will carry a subtle but distinct thin aura of deep crimson red as an unnatural thin line of red positioned between the physical body, organ, or atom and the natural D1 etheric body field that surrounds and permeates the physical structure. Now, when we taught you the Betcher Hoover scan, which we'll do some of this afternoon, I think, I hope there'll be time. But when you practice the Betcher Hoover scan techniques, you'll be able to find these in your field. I don't think we actually address that specific application, but once you get familiar with the technique of the Betcher Hoover scan anyway, you will realize that you can check your own template out, identify specifics, use some of the techniques in your own tailor-made way, and pop them out of your field. The crimson aura is a D1 frequency barrier that forms around the D1 etheric body of attachments partially separating them from a portion of the host's etheric body. The crimson aura D1 frequency barrier forms due to the attachment's own inability to fully bond its foreign D1 etheric body reverse matrix shield template with the portion of the organic D1 etheric body shield that is naturally connected with the D12, D13 divine blueprint and D15 primal magenta light fields. I mean, that really just means that it can't fully bond. I mean, inorganic template can't fully bond with organic, right? And that's why we have this phenomenon, the crimson aura. Presently, all earth forms, including that of the human body, carry this unnatural crimson line between the physical structure and its etheric body field. In biological life forms, it appears to higher sensory perception as a thin red outline with a reddish-black outer edge surrounding the body form just above the skin, between the radiant etheric body field, approximately 1 inch above the skin, and the physical body. The crimson line also appears in the etheric field surrounding every organ, molecule, and atom in biological life forms, and around every form, molecule, and atom in non-biological construction. The red line in the etheric field of the aura is the crimson clue that reveals the presence of elemental and figment attachments. Now we go on to the crimson crested magentas. If shadow dancer attachment has advanced to DNA infiltration and partial shadow dancer possession of the physical body, this is often referred to as dancer cording, the crimson line will not only appear within the etheric body, but also surrounding the Hoover body within the radial body capsule. The crimson clue of partial possession appears as a set of 2 wider bands of crimson positioned between the outer rayon field and the trion field, and between the outer Hoover mental body and Eros inner mirage field. In the aura, this appears as a pale crimson band about 3 inches wide, with a thin dark black line running in the center, separating the crimson band into 2 parts, which is stationed about 12 to 16 inches out from the body in the auric field. If shadow dancer possession has advanced to full body to full body possession and assimilation of the original identity through DNA template monadic reversal, which is to do with strand 8 reversal, that reverses the core crystal of the DNA template, completely recoding the shield template to the Metatronic code, several unnatural formations will appear in the auric field, if that's the case, if full body possession and assimilation is close to being complete. If one's aura has the following characteristics clearly identifiable within the aura, which you don't really want to know, they are no longer a human consciousness, but rather the full body houses a Wesedak shadow dancer, and there are a lot around on the planet. The Metatronic code cannot be reversed once DNA template monadic reversal has occurred, and the original identity is no longer alive in its original organic form. It has been fragmented into raw units of consciousness and assimilated into the Wesedak shield. We don't know the exact extent to which this process, the level to which it's reached. But what I can tell you is according to what Ash sees and what I see. It leads to a place where you naturally come to understand how important it is to be aware of your personal fields all the time. I mean, like everybody you meet, you grow accustomed to being aware that you need to pay attention to your own fields. That doesn't mean that you're judging anybody. It means that your awareness builds to a level that you realize that all manner of unguarded moments. And I don't want to make you paranoid, because, you know, we teach this fear thing. But you go out shopping, even when someone happens to pump you on the shoulder, grow accustomed to pulling the akasha shape right into the heart center and blowing it right through the point that you were touched. And you just do that as a matter of self-maintenance. But because you become aware that what we're talking about here, right, is so prevalent on the planet, that you will naturally, I hope, reach a point where your awareness of the integrity of your fields is so important to you that you will naturally be very careful about how you're touched
and how people are behaving and how they're posturing, you can see, if you look into the eyes without any field scanning, you can get a clue real quick. Because if you notice dead eye, nothing behind the eyes at all, then look more closely. All right, but look out for it, and I'm just trying to encourage you to take some of these things into a slightly a raised level of awareness, really. So we'll carry on. One of the most easily identified auric configurations of shadow dancer full possession is loss of the crimson line between the physical and etheric bodies. The etheric body and the etheric body eyes radiate a steady, static, intense, bright electric blue light. This is the D13 reverse blue sword Metatronic artificial light current. Another apparent feature of the shadow dancer aura is a striation of various bands, that's just fine streams, bands of rainbow colors in the field around the etheric body, which are each distinctly separated from each other by a thin black line. The most notable telltale sign of shadow dancer full body possession is the gold band and magenta flame in the outer layer of a spherical rather than elliptical auric field. The magenta flame has also been called the blood flame, the ruby flame, or the crimson crest, which is commonly known in ancient times as the sign of the Antichrist. The crimson crest is a dense band of radiant static energy of a deep, bright, intense electric violet red or dark magenta red from 3 to 6 feet wide that surrounds a singular spherical auric capsule which signifies completion of the force metatronic bond between the organic shield from D1, which is red, to the D13 reversed electric blue sword current. Within the crimson crest capsule there is a thin dark black line, then an inner band of bright yellow-orange gold about 4 to 6 inches wide. Another thin black line separates this outer Metatronic radial body field from the inner layers of the striated rainbow aura. If your higher perception is highly developed, observation of the crimson crest auric field may also reveal the presence of what appears to be a large metallic gold scarab beetle, the form of which appears to be within and extending beyond the physical body form. Now, you said that your clairvoyant abilities weren't particularly developed. I'll make a suggestion that hopefully will surprise some of you. When you're looking at the TV, particularly a news program, when you're getting a lot of variation, all right, coming on the screen, bring your attention to your breathing, slow it down, try and relax. You're not giving yourself scores out of 10, and look at the faces on the screen again. And keep on allowing yourself. Close your eyes, refocus. Close your eyes, refocus. Close your eyes, refocus. And you'll surprise yourselves about what you can see. Initially you'll get traces of things in the facial area usually. It's not as usual that you see body parts first, but you'll see something around here, and you'll did I? Allow yourself to say, yes, I did. Even if you can't remember, you can't be sure. Don't get into the game. Just keep on, gently, trying. Close your eyes, keep your breathing slow, relax. Don't expect to see anything. But look again. And eventually you will see golden scarab beetles talking to you on international news breaks. And others. You know, Wesedrax, Wesedax, Draconarchy. They're all there. I mean, really. You know, there are a lot, actually, in world affairs. Just try it anyway. You surprise yourself. If your sensory perception is highly developed, you may get to see metallic gold scarab beetles, the form of which appears to be within and extending beyond the physical body form. This is the true form of the inhabiting shadow dancer. The Crimson Crest Shadow Dancer full body possession implies the inhabiting presence of a D11.5 reversed dark avatar from the Wesedak Nephilim Necromaton collective. This embodiment can only be formed through body snatching an incarnate level 3 12 DNA strand coded indigo child,
or indigo children types 1 and 2, and bear in mind child is a misnomer because this applies to you as children, all right, before awakening of their Amareya flame body. So this is the point that is telling you about the current techniques we're working with. You are now activating your flame body. You're going into a period of low maintenance, which is all that's required. And what this is telling you is that even if you have Wesadak, Nephilim, Necromaton coding now, you'll blow the cords off, and as long as you maintain your field integrity, they won't be able to record you. This is why the techniques that are being shared now, and the ones that came before these, were posted on the website as a gift to the planet. They're so important. And the extensions to those originals and the ones that are coming through this weekend as well, because there are some more which will relate to this, are all there for people who have concerns about what to do. The Wesadak Nephilim Necromaton Collective refer to these hijacked indigo child earthly embodiments of themselves as the Magentas. And that's the true meaning of the magenta, not the one that's being put about out there. All right. Signs of the Beast, Metatronic implants, and the Planetary Fire Sword initiation. Creation of elemental, figment, and shadow dancer attachments is an inorganic process for which the Wesadak Beast machine, the net field, that's the electrostatic net, the Nibiruan electrostatic net, and the 4 black hearts of Metatron, and the 666 Apollyon Metatronic seed atom shield implants are all together entirely responsible. The power center of elemental, figment, and shadow dancer attachments is the elemental emotional body Manet template to which the 4th black heart Metatronic implants are connected. The attachment power centers are as follows. Density 1, the 4th black heart, which is the heart of Anubis, D1.75 implant, draws attachments into the D2 electron field, DNA strand templates 1 and 2, chakras 1 and 2, and the density 1 atomic etheric and elemental emotional bodies of the incarnate body. Density 2, dimensions 4, 5, and 6, the home of the 3rd black heart, heart of Delphi, which is a D4.75 implant, draws attachments into the D5 dion field, DNA strand templates 4 and 5, chakras 4 and 5, and the density 2 atomic etheric and elemental emotional bodies of the soul. Density 3, which is 7, 8, 9, the 2nd black heart, or heart of the dragon, is a D7.75 implant, drawing attachments into the D8 ectron field, DNA strand templates 7 and 8, chakras 7 and 8, and the density 3 atomic etheric and elemental emotional bodies of the oversoul. And density 4 is the 1st black heart, the heart of Merlin. It's a D10.75 implant, draws attachments into the D11 trion field, DNA strand templates 10 and 11, chakras 10 and 11, and the density 4 atomic etheric and elemental emotional bodies of the avatar level body. Now, maybe you've got an aha going on, because if you recollect some of the things that have been talked about since Friday, it isn't just a case of remembering you're a multidimensional being. It's much more a case of recognizing that the healing that we discuss at this level, and you are a representative of your soul family. Did I point out on Friday that you're here now in a body because you're the best suited, strongest, and altogether best representative of your group to come into incarnation now and do the job that's needed. And you are representative of your own avatar, which is a curious flip on the power relationship. You hear people talking about, integrating Christ consciousness as if it's up there, out there, over there somewhere, and one day maybe if you're lucky and you're a really good person, really kind person, somehow it'll show up and say, "Hi, I'm ready to come in." What are you doing here? And if that's more powerful than you, and there's this job to deal with, and we're just pointing out to you that all of these attachment potentials exist all the way up the multidimensional spectrum, and you're here now handling it, what does it say about you? You don't need any more convincing after that, do you really? Really, really? I mean, you're the one. You're it now. You're right. Yeah, we teach fair. Take responsibility for who you really are. Right. elemental, figment, and shadow dancer attachment power centers linked to the D2 aspect of the density 1 telluric shield, the D5 aspect of the density 2 diuretic shield, the D8 aspect monadic core of the density 3 telluric shield, and the D11 aspect of the density 4 maharic shield. As the black heart implants are located in the shields, the distorted scalar templates of elemental, figment, and shadow dancer attachments bond to the reversed matrix implant in the host shield and subsequently manifest as scalar wave reversals called overlays within each density level of the host DNA template. Now, these overlays really come down to groups of aparte working together that correspond to each of the dimensional levels that were represented in the witness test. So when you go and look at your witness test and you see where your lowest score is, it's telling you where the current template, the current potential in terms of dimensional and density template levels, where the dancers are targeting, and which level of your identities are currently under most pressure in terms of decoding. So now it may make more sense to you when I was saying that what you get out of the analysis is the opportunity to get focused as a result of the way you answered the questionnaire on where the issues are occurring in the different templates in the different shields. And so from this level, you can begin to project intense focus and apply the outcomes of the techniques to the points of weakness in your own shields, at whichever level they're occurring at. Because the low score spheres in the analysis are showing you where, quote unquote, the attack is coming from. It also shows you where your areas of strength are, and if you want to work from your areas of strength, which makes sense, you can position yourself there. You can communicate with parts of yourself because it's showing you which dimensions they're on, even though you haven't got your incarnational memory open yet necessarily, and you can't say, hey Joe, Maggie, Joan, or whoever, come and give me a hand here. You know which frequency band, which color spectrum, which tones, and all the other tools to use and apply. So if you wanted to create a platform, if you take the angelic realities technique, where you finish up coming out your crown chakra on a blue plate, you want to make guardian contact, right? One of the things that we discussed but decided not to do in the end because there are too many other techniques to get ready, is you could take all of the frequency colors that relate to your current dimensional level of greatest strength, wherever that's showing in your quiz, and you could create a disc just above the crown in which you see yourself a representative of your entire family, and you can work from there, right? And you can project frequency from that position. So you actually create a special sphere of frequencies that are imbued with all the strengths that you carry, right? And the tones that are also consistent with this is what I mean by tailor-made. You bring those tones in and you start to radiate them out, sending them to, intending they arrive at the dimensional level where you have identified the dance according is most likely to continue to be a problem, right? And that's highly specific. It's entirely to do with you. You continue to do the techniques that have to do with decoding here. But when you want to really shift something faster, it will show you where to look. It will show you a point of strength and show you a point of weakness. Work from your strength and attack the weakness, so to speak, right? And that's really what the output from that session was really about, was to bring you to the point of realizing that you can do these things if you want to. And what it's doing is to compress, concentrate, accelerate. Right? It isn't bringing anything intrinsic of its own that the other techniques can't do with time. But if you really want to quicken everything up, if you want to address an issue that's bugging you, then you'd start to do this. You'd start to incorporate these highly individual, tailor-made combinations of things that your own self-analysis has shown you. And that's really what it's for. Yes.
So you mentioned there's a rotation multicolor spheres. Redirected.
Not necessarily if your disk wants to rotate. Since it's intelligent, since you've constructed it, then allow it. But we don't say it has to be clockwise or counterclockwise. The disk will be horizontal, we would say that. But it would be constructed of the properties that you give it as a result of the insights you're giving to yourself to work with. If your creation then starts to come alive, it comes alive showing you itself in its own intimate way. It's the relationship you're having with it. If it turns out spherical, that's okay too. But it's something you're creating. You're manifesting that as a bigger tool for for you to actually complete a component of the healing that you're personally intrinsically associated with. But you see, as you do that, you make a more rapid contribution to the whole healing. As you take more responsibility for it, as it's expressed through your own concern to be more effective, more expanded, more aware, more wise, you're doing it for everybody else. Because what you're doing affects the group template, right? The tribal shield. So it's cool. Subsequently manifest as overlays within each density level of the host DNA template. The four black heart implants and their overlay attachments manifest in DNA strand templates 2, 5, 8, 11. The 4 primary control strands in the 12-strand DNA template. Programs carried in the 4 primary control strands manifest replica programs in the strands immediately above and below, which means that every dimension is affected from each of the 4 control points. The 4 Blackheart Metatronic implants have been only 2/3 activated since 34,700 BC. That's the Babylon Massacre, Tower of Babel Bible story, when the Westerdax implemented partial activation of the 4th Heart of Anubis implant, through which the Density 1 radial body memory matrix of Earth and humanity was partially wiped overnight. Boom. Photosonic pulse. Went to bed one night, woke up the following morning, and the whole chunk of you had gone AWOL. You know, where'd I go? But you didn't remember you'd gone anywhere else because you didn't know the difference. Yep. And the Westerdack Nephilim net field artificial Metatronic radial body and its intentionally scripted false memory complex were activated within our planetary shields and collective consciousness radial fields. Full activation of the 4 Blackheart implants requires activation of the D6.5 666 Apollyon Metatronic seed atom shield implant, also known as the 666 Templar Axiom seal, or the Sign of the Beast, and the D11.5 Eye of Metatron, which is also called the Avalon Seal shield implant. The 666 seal manifests in the DNA template as an overlay reversal in DNA fire code 6 between DNA strand templates 6 and 7. This creates reciprocal manifestation of the 666 seal within the Azure point in the thymus gland and in the pineal gland between the cores of chakra 6 and 7. The Avalon seal manifests at the midpoint of DNA strand template 12 above the head in the etheric body field chakra 10, Kathara center 12, and below the feet in the etheric body field chakra 12. The 666 seal, the Avalon seal, and the 4 black hearts of Metatron of the Westerdax Beast Machine are planetary, galactic, and universal shield implant networks that exist within the planetary, galactic, and universal Templars in corresponding Kathara grid, core template, stargate positions, within you and without you. I'm going for time. All right. All right, just a little bit more of this. And then a little bit more of this detail, not much now. And then Rosaline is going to help us with technique number 9, which will involve us doing some other kind of energy work through the Song of Lyra and the Song of Kemalatia, together with the Anahazi activation component, which is really lovely. But just a wee bit more. Right, this is about the flaming blue swords from hell, Archangel Michael and all that. On March 23rd, 2002, the UIR, that's the United Intruder Resistance, multi-race alliance of convenience, initiated early activation of the Phase 1 D11.5 Avalon seal in the Universal Galactic Planetary Templars, Lara Avion, Avalon, Moon, Chiron and Charon, Pluto Moon. It Rennes-le-Château, France, beginning release of the D13 reverse Metatronic Blue Sword frequencies in Stargates 12 and Stargate 10 in Iran, and within our corresponding embodied Templar chakras 12 and 10. That's in our bodies. On July 24, 2002, the UIR phase-locked the date activation codes for the 666 Templar seal, a Polyon Metatronic seed atom implant. The 666 seal will activate on May 12, 2003, and undergo a 15-day incubation period before transmitting through Earth's Templar on May 27, 2003. And one of our friends at the group here has advised that one of the representatives of the Merlin seal is actually going to Greece to commence their part of the work against our work, so to speak, about 5 days before we arrive. But this is fine, because it's part of the separation anyway. They're just doing what they need to do to get their people into the Wastedac matrix. It won't make any difference what we're doing. So it'll undergo a 15-day incubation before transmitting through Earth's Templar on the 27th of May 2003, which is why we're going to Paxos. As the 666 seal Metatronic seed atom activates, it will open Templars to receive the final piece of the flaming blue sword as the full blue sword D13 reverse current emerges through the universal Stargate 666 configuration. Our universal Vecca systems, our galaxy, planet, and our bodies will undergo the fire sword initiation. Activation of the 666 seal will draw our time matrix, phantom, and the Wastedac matrix together at the universal Stargate 6 position, metatronically merging the shields of our universal Stargate 6 Sirius B, phantom universal Stargate 6 Sirius A, and Wastedac universal Stargate 6 Apollyon, which is where the 666 comes from. And Shana will be dealing with some of that as far as the beast anatomy is concerned this afternoon. As the 666 artificially bonded shields, the universal Stargate 6 shields, merge, the blue sword, with the horizontal crossbar of its handle at the universal Stargate 666 position, will send its handle shaft upward as an electric blue arc to universal Stargate 8 at Orion Mintaka, that's Orion's belt, then to universal Stargate 11, Lyra Avion, which is the gateway to inner Earth, and Agartha in the Echo universe. The blue sword blade will simultaneously arc downward from the universal Stargate 666 conversion point from universal Stargate 6 Sirius B to universal Stargate 5 Alcyon, to universal Stargate 4 Our Sun, finally to universal Stargate 3 Earth, and to universal Stargate Trapezium Orion, or Orion's sword. When the blue sword anchors in universal Stargate 3 Earth, it will arc horizontally to universal Stargate 6 Jupiter in our galactic Templar, activating the galactic Stargate 666 configuration, and a horizontal blue sword in our galactic system. Simultaneously, the blue sword will arc from universal Stargate 3, galactic Stargate 3 Earth core, into our planetary Templar, anchoring at the planetary Azure point near the Sahara in northwest Africa. Now, we're not sure, and we were trying to find out last night, whether or not there will be any observable phenomena in the sky around the time that this happens, because technically it should be capable to see something in the appropriate parts around Orion's belt particularly. One ought to be able to see momentarily flashes of what we would call light occurring there, but we weren't getting any pick-up on the question, and we didn't linger with it very long. If we don't get pick-up, we don't carry on with it anyway. But we'll try to find out what kind of visual phenomena there are available, particularly for people who want to, as it were, splice into what we're doing there, because they're not able to join us. It'll probably help them with the 24-hour vigil work, because that's what we will be doing, the high point of the work we'll be doing. There's one particular hour in which we've got to be keenly charged with frequency, but that will happen within the 24-hour vigil that we do. And during that night, it'll be when, if there is visible phenomena in the sky in that area, then we should be able to see. But we'll let people know before then. Once anchored, the blue death arc will rapidly link with, through Stargate 12, planetary Stargate 12 Montségur in France, and planetary Stargate 10 in Iran, the March 23, 2002 activated circuitry of the D11.5 Avalon seal in France, which is the control point for the planetary Michael Mary turnstile matrix implants, or MMTs as they're referred to. The MMTs will simultaneously transmit rays of the death blue arc directly to the 4th black heart implants in the planetary Templar, setting the 4 black hearts into full beating, so to speak, causing them to rapidly transmit the blue sword of death throughout Earth's Templar. As Earth Templar receives the blue sword of death, Earth's shields will begin merger with those of Phantom Earth and a Wesadak planet called Nibonti, which is Wesadak Universal Stargate 9, via planetary Stargate 666 alignment that anchors through Earth's planetary Stargate 6 in Moscow, Russia. As the 666 artificially bonded planetary Stargate 6 shields merge, the blue sword of death with the horizontal crossbar of its handle at the planetary Stargate 666 Moscow position will send its handle shaft to planetary Stargate 8 Xi'an in China before moving on to planetary Stargate 11 in England. Simultaneously, the blade will arc from Stargate 6 Moscow to Stargate 5 Machu Picchu, Peru to Stargate 4 Giza, to Stargate 3 Bermuda, to Stargate 2 the Grual in Florida, Sarasota, Florida, to Stargate 1 at the South Pole, and throughout the APINs, the Atlantean Pylon implant networks throughout the globe. What most people mean when they refer to the planetary grid, although it isn't actually that. It's an implant network that most people play with at sacred sites often too. As the blue sword of death transmits throughout our universal, galactic and planetary Templars, all of these Templar shadow bodies will phase lock in position, and the shields of our time matrix will progressively reverse over a 2 to 5 year period. Now, this phase lock is emphasizing the importance of doing the shadow and shadow dancer clearing before May, because the personal significance and the collective significance is that what is capable of phase lock in terms of field infiltration or interference will phase lock, and you won't be able to get rid of it. One doesn't need to overstate, therefore, the significance of maintaining your disciplines and working with these techniques if you intend to participate in any significant way whatsoever in any of the ARC project involvements, or even evac activities, being included in the evac team, being taken to inner early, as we suppose is likely to happen to some of us. Some will be trained as evac team leaders, and that's really what the contact course in Bermuda, Part 1, was beginning to introduce, and why some of these slightly more direct and candid exchanges were encouraged by Ma in helping people to more fully embrace the reality of what it means to be an indigo and what being indigo implicitly contains in terms of one's service and one's contribution to the whole, and how we can't really faff about for any longer having reasons why we can't do technique today because we've got to wash our hair, or because I'm allowing myself to feel bad because I had a row with my husband or girlfriend or wife. You know, you really got to get this rubbish out of your face and get down to it and do it, because after May 27, phase lock happens, and any of the unwanted luggage that you're towing will remain phase locked, and you won't be able to shift it. So I'm just making clear to you what this means in terms of your role. As the shadow bodies phase lock, the natural shields will progressively reverse to merge with the shadow body shield. Then systematically the shadow shield will merge with the phantom matrix shield, and finally the phantom matrix shield will fully reverse and invert to merge with the Wesadak shield within the Wesadak black hole system. Now, the last section before we do some singing. The antichristic planetary fire sword initiation will set in motion a corresponding and reciprocal effect within the embodied Templars of all forms of life on Earth, including humans. As the 6-6 seal activates in DNA fire code 6 and within the Azure point in the thymus gland and in the pineal gland between the cores of chakras 6 and 7, our bodies will receive the fire sword initiation. The blue sword of death rapidly links via Cathara center 12, chakra 10, and Cathara center 10 at the left shoulder with the March 23, 2002 activated circuitry of the D11.5 Avalon seal in the Kathara Center 12, Chakra 10 above the head, and Chakra 12 below the feet, which is the control center for the embodied MMTs. On May 27, 2003, as the 666 Apollyon Metatronic seed implants activate in the thymus gland as array point in all life forms and humans, our shadow body 2/3 reverse shield phase locks and our personal shields begin to merge with those of our shadow, phantom earth, and the Wysidak shadow dancers. The blue sword horizontal handle crossbar emerges within our bodies at the 666 seal as array position, next sending its handle shaft upward as an electric blue arc to Kathara Center 8 in the mid-thymus, then to Kathara Center 11 at the pineal gland in the brain center. The blue sword blade will simultaneously arc downward from the thymus 666 seal conversion point to Kathara Center 5 at the navel, to Kathara Center 4, the left side abdominal area and the spleen, to Kathara Center right abdominal area and the appendix, to Kathara Center 2 internal gruel point, in the lower reproductive organs, to Kathara Center 1 at Earth's core. If it were not for activation of the transharmonic flame of Amaraya at the Azare point, which consists of techniques 1 through 3 and number 7, and resultantly the embodied 12 Ruche pillars, we would be unable to protect ourselves from the blue sword of death as it begins coursing through our planet beginning on May 27, 2003. On this date, our shadow body 2/3 reverse shield will phase lock. If we do not generate the Amaraya wave in our body sufficiently by this date, the shadow body reverse shield will begin drawing in and reversing our natural shield, progressively creating DNA template monadic reversal, which can't be undone if you recall. If our shields merge with the shadow, we will follow part of Earth reversing shields into phantom matrix merger, then finally complete shield merger with the Wysidak matrix black hole system in 2 to 5 years. That's up to 2008. And it's a process up to that time. Activation of the organic divine blueprint Amaraya flame generates sufficient transharmonic frequency in the body to progressively neutralize Metatronic implants and sever shadow dancer cords, preventing the shadow body shield from creating forced shield merger and forced DNA monadic reversal. Reducing the quantity of elemental and figment attachments within the shadow body and working to rapidly build the full Amaraya flame within our bodies before the May 27, 2003 shadow body phase lock will lend much greater probability of our success in creating protection from the blue sword of death, planetary fire sword initiation for ourselves and many, many, many other life forms and elements of the divine blueprint, which we're actually here to rescue and take back through our own fields, as the ARC project would define it as being at that non-universal mechanics level. Although universal mechanics exists throughout, our personal brief is to get ourselves charged up, sorted out, prepared to be able to rescue as much as the divine blueprint, to take it into transition. And this will be, I'm not going to move into areas where I know that we've got things yet to say, but really it's to do with resetting the cosmic clock. And I know that a lot of new material that Ash is completing now is to do with the issue of the cosmic clock and how we play a role in it. And what the Ruche pillars do and what the keys we're being given. These symbols are keys to resetting the cosmic clock. We now begin to understand better what the relationship is between the activate indigo templates, this phase lock, and these symbol codes which we recognize as conscious beings. But we're now being given to understand that these are the sacred keys that we need to open some of the gates in order that element, that aspect of the project that's being conducted from Earth and the galaxy can actually mesh with the work that our future selves are doing at the higher levels too. They're doing the same things as we're doing, but at the levels that they can access, whereas we can't do that very easily. Right. Okay. Oh, golly. Right, Rosaline, my darling girl. We're out now. In fact, to my absolute flipping amazement, I hadn't even looked at this new stuff, but the next thing I'm going to do after this technique that Rosalind's going to take you through is entitled, not that I noticed, Resetting the Cosmic Clock. The Cosmic 12-12-11-11 activation. Well. So